It's Nolan. Now, before we get started, make sure y'all hitting that like button. Make sure y'all sharing it on your respective platforms. Let somebody know what we're doing today. Now, let's get into the show. Can I deliver the heat? Do they get busy like me? With time and precision, my grind and ambition got me in position to eat. Send me the beat, I'ma feast up a feast over 52 weeks. I'ma sizzle like grease. When that man woman can't give him no peace. Give me the flow and I bet OD. Ay, I got the bag, just come to the flat. Put on my notice, this music is working. I quit on my jobs, I'm here for the stacks. Had me a trip from the hood with some kids. So when I came over, I'm straight to the snacks. Can full of soda, I'm spitting no cap. I've been so busy, I'm starting to get dizzy. Priority billing, I need me an app. I'm the present, I got charming presence. When I walk in sessions, they be asking questions about the TV music. That's a Harvard lesson. Pay the $5, we can start collecting. You ain't talking money, then I'm not collecting. Came to build, that's architecture. Handle business, that's more than pleasure. Massage problem on all the pressure. What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Excuse me. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. Hope everybody's doing well out there. For the last couple of days, I've been getting notifications from y'all telling me that Drake has filed his, his last argument to UMG and, of course, the appellate court. And I believe the next step from here will be actual, in-court arguments from both sides, right? So they're actually going to have to really plead their case in person. But this is his final response as to why the appeal should be considered, taken seriously, moved forward, and possibly overturning the decision that came from his defamation lawsuit against UMG, primarily for Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, right? So he put a filing in, and this thing is fucking ridiculous, okay? I haven't read the entire thing, but I did take a glance at some of the contents that reside within this thing. And it is ridiculous, embarrassing. All those things. So it's pretty long. So all the pleasantries are out the way. Let's get to the words on the paper. Introduction. In dismissing Aubrey Drake Graham's amended complaint, the district court relied heavily on matters outside the pleadings, weighed the evidence, made adverse factual findings contradicting well-pleaded facts, and improperly drew inferences against Drake. Tellingly, UMG Records' response brief identifies no case approving such aggressive and unmoored judicial fact-finding at the motion to dismiss stage, except the judge actually dismissed it. Instead, UMG repeats the court's errors, largely glossing over the allegations in the amended complaint and focusing instead on its own version of the facts and evidence from outside the pleadings. So basically what Drake and his legal team are basically saying, and this is what they were actually trying to get Judge Vargas to do, was to exclusively look at Drake's complaint, not to look at the context of the complaint, not to look at the events in the order in which they happen and the context in which they happen, but to only look at his complaint and basically accept it as blanketed truth, and that it should have moved forward to the jury trial based on that. And anything that negates them feeling like that, they feel is leaning on a version of their own facts. Again, this thing is ridiculous. UMG's distortion of its cited authorities and its failure to mention, let alone engage with law, cited in Drake's opening brief, reveals that not only are the facts on Drake's side, the law is too, except the law saw differently. Drake's case against UMG is in its infancy. In its infancy. So we've already been at this shit for over a year, and he says we just getting started. How you can support this is crazy. Even if you like this dude, how can you support this wholeheartedly with a straight face while also wanting hip hop lyrics to remain out of court or to preserve anything hip hop related? The scope of the district court's review at this stage is narrow. The court's function is not to weigh the evidence that might be presented at a trial or make findings of fact. Instead, under Rule 12b-6, the only facts to be considered are those alleged in the complaint, and the court must accept them, drawing all reasonable inferences in the plaintiff's favor. That does not make any sense. Because if that made any sense, then nobody's lawsuit would get fucking dismissed. We would just have niggas in court all day, every day, even more so than we already do. So he's trying to bend the rules of how litigation works in his favor, which is their job to do. But reading this with a level head, it just comes across insane. The district court failed to abide by those bedrock principles. At a minimum, it was required to convert UMG's motion to dismiss into one for summary judgment. But it failed to do that too. Consequently, Drake never had the opportunity to contest the evidence and present what he had uncovered in the early stages of discovery. This court should reverse. What do you mean? Y'all had all types of time to present what you had in discovery. Y'all was worried about finding Kojo. Where's Kojo? Y'all was doing a fucking Easter egg hunt looking for Kojo instead of presenting what your findings were. But now you mad because the judge dismissed because she was tired of y'all bullshit playing with the courts, wasting the people's time. Argument. The defamation claim should have been allowed to proceed. The district court dismissed Drake's defamation claim based solely on its determination that the recording, video, and image contained statements of opinion rather than actionable statements of fact. That decision turned on context, but the court committed multiple errors in considering the relevant context, misapplying judicial notice to draw inferences against Drake, replacing the reasonable listener with a rap aficionado. A rap aficionado? What? So two of the biggest artists in music, period. We're not just talking about hip hop, but two of the biggest artists in music, period, having a back and forth feud with millions upon millions of views on each of y'all's responses back. And you're saying that the reasonable listener is now being misinterpreted as rap aficionados. Rap aficionados never wanted to hear from you to begin with. But I'll digress. Ignoring the broader social context, failing to recognize UMG's republications to different audiences, and effectively creating a special rule that rap diss tracks are a defamation-free zone. They've always been a defamation-free zone. You've partaken in multiple rap beefs. One where you, at a young age, actually accused a man of also being a PDF. He didn't take your ass to court for defamation. He didn't sue you. He didn't tell no judge to go look up your lyrics. We played that song on this channel last year. I swear, man, this dude here. UMG doubles down on those errors and rewrites the amended complaint to boot. This court should reverse. Drake adequately pleaded defamatory statements of fact. And again, this is their job to write this bullshit, but I don't believe that they actually believe in any of this shit. They just keeping it going for the sake of saying, hey, we're going to do everything we can to make you feel the best about this situation. We're going to go out fighting. Drake stated a claim that UMG defamed him by publishing and promoting the recording, which was intended to convey the specific, unmistakable, and false factual allegation that Drake is a criminal PDF. The recording calls Drake a certified PDF, including lyrics like "Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young," and "trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor," and warns that Drake has got to be registered and placed on neighborhood watch. I find it very interesting that you're trying to lean on context while contextually misrepresenting a lot of these bars. These bars that you find to be most offensive are not even specifically about you, which says a lot about you. Because yes, he said certified PDFs, right? Said it in the plural. I know some people are not going to like this, but if you listen to the song, you hear it. Now, he could be included in the plural, but he did not say him specifically. I hear you like I'm young does not mean I know you like I'm young or I've seen you like I'm young. I hear it. It's rumor. It's opinion. Trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor. Right? We get it. But come on. Gotta be registered and placed on neighborhood watch. That wasn't about you either. A reasonable listener could, and countless did, construe the recording as factually asserting that Drake sexually abuses children. The fact that you would write this down. Entertainment industry insiders, I wouldn't even want my name next to no shit like this to be complaining about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we could have been forgot about all this shit a year at least ago. Entertainment industry insiders and media experts on Hollywood affairs likewise understood the recording's core PDF message and debated its consequences. And the image and the video reinforced those factual assertions by using actual SO notification symbols and trafficking imagery. The broader social context also supports this view that the public could and did take the core assertion of pedophilia seriously cannot come as a surprise to UMG. Unlike impromptu statements made at a public hearing or in a live rap battle, UMG's publication of the recording as well as the image and video was the product of some deliberation and thus more likely to signal assertions of fact, as if rap battles on stage are not product of deliberation. These niggas be writing they bars for months, be having whole theater antics mapped out for months. Some of these niggas even rehearse they battles against each other together before they actually go on stage. Some, not all, not many, but I've heard there's some. So to try and make this this narrative that live rap battles are just impromptu and y'all's battle is a product of intense deliberation. Basically trying to say that UMG played a role in this whole thing from the jump. Indeed, Drake alleged that UMG had ultimate control to review and approve the recording to eliminate defamation or libel. So again, he didn't want UMG to veto his releases, but he wanted them to veto Kendrick's. Although defamation from his purview and libel and slander and all of these things, he introduced it to the conversation. But when it's convenient for him, he says, they're defaming me. That process reflects that UMG knew the recording would be subjected to close, careful, and repeated listening over time, which is especially true given the various fora in which it was republished, including to a global audience at the Super Bowl. UMG's primary response is to rewrite the amended complaint and the recording. UMG claims the recording was not focused on calling Drake a PDF, but instead is a series of hyperbolic disses on many subjects. Nonsense. Even the district court recognized that the recording's key lyrics explicitly named Drake and his associates as PDFs. The recording was intended to convey the specific, unmistakable, and false factual allegation that Drake is a criminal PDF and to suggest vigilante justice as a response. So nowhere in Family Matters did you suggest vigilante justice when you started talking about all the niggas that were supposedly gangbangers and he wasn't. Didn't he say something about a DP on that song? Which is literally vigilante justice if you know what he's talking about. Nobody tried to gun down Drake because of the recording's remarks about his artistic prowess, brand, or hometown. They did so because it proclaimed that Drake sexually abuses children. So he is wholeheartedly standing on the shooting that took place at his house where some mystery guard was shot. And I say mystery guard simply because we've heard nothing else about this guard for the last 2 years. We haven't seen him put up in a penthouse. We haven't seen a celebration for when he got out. We didn't see him get an OVO chain. We didn't see anything. He didn't even get a motherfucking Medal of Honor from Drake. But now he's claiming that this shooting was a direct response to him being called a PDF and that his house was shot and targeted because of the song. When there was already instances of his home being attacked, not to mention the week prior, The Weeknd's home was attacked in the very same way while The Weeknd's manager's home, while they were still engaged in a deep beef. Even the news said it was retaliation for the Weeknd manager incident, but yet they claim that UMG and the courts have been overlooking context. The recording's fixation on Drake's alleged PDF activity and the uniquely damaging nature of such allegations distinguish this case from Rappaport v. Barstool's, which, of course, UMG leaned very heavily on this particular case in their motion to dismiss. Rappaport involved a diss track video that, unlike the recording, was not focused on a single theme, but instead made exaggerated, obviously hyperbolic, and vitriolic claims about all aspects of Rappaport's life, none of which claimed sexual criminal conduct against minors. I could have swore Michael Rappaport was called very directly a PDF in that diss record from Barstool Sports. Maybe I'm tripping, but I could have swore that song called him that, and that's what really made him file a lawsuit. The image looks like a screenshot from Citizen showing, of course, the Citizen app, showing offenders gathered at Drake's Toronto mansion. Indeed, people understood the image as supporting the recording's PDF allegations. The image below left is a literal map to Drake's Toronto home where vigilantes arrived to search for suspected sex predators or endangered minors. The map to your home was already out for years. People had already been approaching your home for years. Y'all treated the home as a fucking landmark, a fucking tourist destination. But now you're trying to act like you was Mr. Private. Compare this to the obviously doctored, non-actionable visuals in Rappaport depicting a cartoon saltine sauntering on an anonymous street. The court's summary judgment decision in Rappaport simply cannot support dismissal here. So now they're comparing the cover art from Not Like Us to the Barstool Sports diss track on Michael Rappaport, where his face was put on a cracker. UMG further rewrites the amended complaint. UMG contends that the entire rap battle, not just the recording, became ubiquitous, so reasonable listeners would judge the recording through the lens of the entire feud. In support, UMG cites none of the 266 pleaded allegations. Instead, it cites the district court's improper findings of fact. The amended complaint and reality tell a different story. Of all the songs published during the rap beef, the recording is the only one that broke through the noise and achieved cultural ubiquity. That is a lie. Now, was it the biggest? Yes. One of the biggest songs we've had in the last 5-10 years? Yes. But both of y'all dominated the top 10 of Billboard when all of this was happening. Both artists. I think Drake had damn near 3 songs in the top 10. Not to mention when you looked at the top 15 to 20. The beef dominated that shit for a few weeks because everybody was tuned in exclusively to what y'all were doing. This was not some random event that took place and everybody had to ask what was going on. This shit was primetime TV for everybody. Now, of course, some people will say, well, the soccer moms of America didn't find out until Not Like Us and the Super Bowl and all that type of shit. And I understand where you're coming from. But those people are not the ones that are convinced of Drake being a PDF neither. Those people saw the shit, engaged with it, had fun, and went back to work and don't give a fuck about Kendrick nor Drake to any of the level of what we're talking about here. But I'll digress. We got to keep moving. There is a lot more. This nigga just mad because his shit didn't pop off the same way. That's disgusting. The second most popular song had 4% of the recording's views. The others had fewer. And the recording was repeatedly republished in context far removed from the rap battle, including the largest Super Bowl audience in history. So music is supposed to just stop. A battle song ain't never been used as a single. I could have swore someone who wrote this had a battle song that was a single. The reasonable listener, defined by UMG and the district court, thus represented at most 4% of listeners. The law does not permit the court to counterfactually declare 95% of listeners unreasonable. UMG's revisionist history, y'all bold as hell to use that word, illustrates its and the district court's repeated failures to accept the pleaded facts contrary to the motion to dismiss standard. Drake's allegations meet that standard. UMG responds that whether a statement constitutes fact or opinion is a question of law. True enough, but that legal question depends on subsidiary questions of fact that the district court could not resolve against Drake at this juncture. This shit is exhausting, bro. I ain't gonna lie. UMG repeats the district court's errors in arguing that no reasonable person could understand the defamatory statements as asserting facts. UMG improperly relies on materials outside the amended complaint to rebut Drake's allegations. The district court erred in considering extra record materials to draw inferences against Drake's well-pleaded allegations. Why would they allow those materials if they weren't to be used? Those materials provided the only evidence supporting the court's articulation of an unduly broad context the entire rap battle. Thus, rather than assess how a reasonable listener would understand the recording, the court looked to how a rap super fan might have done so. I can assure you, a lot of the people that were tuned into that beef were not rap super fans. A lot of these people, since the beef happened, have re-entered as rap fans. They have been disjointed from the culture. I won't say the culture, but from the rap music cycle for many years. And a lot of people have only gotten back on the wagon after that beef. The district court's consideration of material outside of the pleadings that was not attached to the complaint, incorporated by reference or integral to the complaint, required it to convert the motion into one for summary judgment. Its failure to do so is reversible error. That rule exists for good reason. The court precluded Drake from rebutting its and UMG's unreasonable inferences. You had a bunch of opportunities to rebut. The judge said that they were unsatisfactory. This error is especially stark with respect to tailor-made freestyle, one of the biggest embarrassments ever created, which was not mentioned in the amended complaint, only publicly available for 1 week, and whose contested lyrics are not even in Drake's voice. This is the ridiculousness that I was talking about. So this man has a whole complaint here, whole argument saying that UMG was overlooking context while actually saying how UMG provided the judge with so much context that it led to a dismissal. Key contradiction number one. Number two, he's now talking about tailor-made freestyle, saying it was only available for 1 week, like he put it out and decided to take it down on some J. Cole shit, when the only reason the song was taken down is because Tupac's estate said, hey, we've been alerted about this AI shit using Tupac's voice. We do not respect that. We've only had respectful interactions with Drake up until this point. We do not understand why he would even do that, especially to not even tell us about it. Please take that shit down. Thank you. To which he obliged. So to act like the song was only publicly available for 1 week, like he came out with a 7-day theory to only have the song out, is asinine. Then to double and triple down and say, hey, the lyrics that UMG is pointing out about tailor-made freestyle, it's not even delivered in Drake's voice. Not saying Drake didn't say it, but it's not in his voice. It's AI Tupac. As if anybody gives a fuck, nigga. Everybody knows he recorded, he made it. Did he write it? I don't know. I would hope. But y'all niggas are playing in the people's face, and I'm glad that this shit is being made public rather than happening in the privacy of the fucking barracks and the court and all that dumb shit. I'm glad that we've got platforms today to actually see the type of shit this nigga playing. Despite this, the court found that a reasonable listener would have understood the recording's PDF allegations as a callback to tailor-made freestyle, which we did. The reliance on materials outside the pleadings deprived Drake of the opportunity to rebut this counterfactual assertion. Oh, but y'all were going back and forth for months. You had plenty of opportunities to rebut that. Just never did. The recording's popularity and reach are unprecedented, as the recording and video were heard and or viewed over 9 billion times. In contrast, Tailor-Made Freestyle was a far less popular song, only available online for 1 week before it was removed so quickly that its limited listenership cannot be determined. Oh, y'all want to act like don't nobody even know who heard it now. So this was just a random Untitled app drop, wasn't it? Boy, get the fuck out of here. Given this, the reasonable listener of the recording is someone who never heard Tailor-Made Freestyle. And certainly not someone who was familiar with the history of rap and diss tracks. You crazy as hell. 2, was familiar with the Drake Lamar feud. We've been aware of that shit for 10 years, dog. 3, knew all of the prior songs. 4, believed them to be in dialogue. 5, would interpret the extraordinarily popular recording with reference to the far less pervasive Tailor-Made Freestyle. 6, would interpret Tailor-Made Freestyle as goading. Oh, you mean the diss record that you put out in the meantime while you was waiting on a nigga to respond, telling a nigga to come outside? Are you scared? Did you forget how to rap? Oh, Tupac and Snoop, your OGs and your niggas you looked up to, they're disappointed in you. You can't come outside and get this ass whooping. I'm a rap as your idol. But that doesn't qualify as goading. 7 would see the recording as responding to goading, and 8 would, for some still unexplained reason, conclude that the recording was asserting opinion, not fact. I don't know, because if it was asserting fact, then you should be saying, hey guys, I apologize. I'm a fucking predator. UMG also asserts that Drake could not provide an alternative explanation for the lyrics that it claims goaded Lamar to make PDF allegations. Talk about him liking young girls. That's a gift from me. Heard it on the Button podcast. It's gotta be true. But it was not Drake's burden at the motion to dismiss stage to explain what was incorrect about the factual allegations. UMG offered to rebut pleaded facts. Regardless, UMG is wrong. Given the opportunity at summary judgment, Drake could have provided a ready alternative. Before Taylor Made Freestyle was released, the Button podcast, the fact that y'all put Button podcast, referring to the lyric and not saying the actual Joe Budden podcast in its professional title, is crazy, criticized Drake for dating adult women whom the host deemed too young for Drake. So now they give you a quote from the Joe Budden podcast, 8:45 a.m. in Fayetteville. Released October 7, 2023. This was a catalyst for some of the beef between Drake and Joe. Get the fuck away from some of these younger niggas and stop fucking these 25-year-olds. Why are you still fucking the 25-year-olds? You're a 37-year-old billionaire. Only problem is saying a man is 37 smashing 25-year-olds. That's not very salacious, is it? In a rap beef. You say that about Drake, you're going to be naming 99.9% of the industry. Who's going to side with that? So now you're trying to make it seem like you saying, talk about him liking young girls, that's a gift from me, as if dating younger women that are consenting adults is supposed to be a huge dig. Definitely not something you would put in your preemptive response, trying to get a nigga to say something. That can't be. UMG points to no case where a court used extra record material in the way the district court did, especially when you come out with a song called The Heart Part 6, where you said that Kendrick was fed that you fed him all this information. Right? This Epstein angle was the shit I expected. Have you not been writing so much that you forgot what you released? Oh, you don't want the court to look at none of the rap battle. Excuse me. You just want everything to exist within Not Like Us framework in a vacuum, as if it just happened out of fucking nowhere. As if Kendrick Lamar just woke up on a random fucking Saturday and said, you know what? I'm on his ass today. Call him a fucking PDF. For no reason, just because it's Saturday. That's what Drake wants the court to move forward with. And UMG fails to address cases where this court has reversed when a district court considered external material to make a finding of fact that controverted the plaintiff's own factual assertions set out in his complaint. That silence speaks volumes. The volume is moot. Or mute, perhaps. UMG repeats the district court's errors in defining the relevant context. As discussed, the district court's consideration of extra record materials led it to define the relevant context too broadly. UMG highlights its misunderstanding of the law by arguing, surely Drake cannot contend that 20 million people who watched the Democratic National Convention had no knowledge of the rap battle. Drake need not show that no one was aware of the broader rap battle. He need only show that the reasonable viewer would not necessarily have known the details of his back and forth or interpreted the recording's allegations the way the court did. He did so. Only problem is, if you say that the reasonable viewer did not know about the details of the rap battle, then I would be prone to believe that under your premise, the reasonable viewer also would not even know that Not Like Us was against you. Because the portion of the song that they used was not talking about you. They used the hook. They not like us. They not like us. All these different licensing opportunities that came for that song, they was not playing the diss. It was a diss song, but they weren't playing, you know what I'm saying? Like, you being weird. So if you want to assume that the reasonable viewer did not know anything, then they would have walked away from hearing that shit not knowing anything. Weirdo. That they wouldn't have had the details of the back and forth or interpreted the recording's allegations the way the court did. He did so. Again, the second most popular song had only 4% of the recording's views. That necessarily means most of the 20 million DNC viewers would not have even heard even the next most popular song, let alone the only available for 1 week tailor-made freestyle. But the rest of them songs was popular enough to be on Billboard. None of UMG's authority supports assuming, contrary to well-pleaded facts, the same Billboard that y'all say other rappers in the industry can't seem to attain. None of UMG's authority supports assuming, contrary to well-pleaded facts, that the reasonable listener would have specialized knowledge about the feud in prior songs. Unlike the recording, the rap report video itself described the recent history of the acrimonious dispute, of which the statements were a part, that provided context for the reasonable listener. Similarly, in Steinhilber v. Alphonse, the complained of message was accessible only to individuals who had access to the union's information line, and thus who would know about the ongoing labor strike. Nor is this a case like Coleman v. Grand, where the statements of opinion were based on a recitation of supporting facts. As for the unpublished decision in Terrain, UMG tellingly relegates to a footnote its acknowledgement that the plaintiff himself introduced the context in his complaint. UMG's suggestion that Drake did the same lacks merit. The amended complaint does not mention tailor-made freestyle. Who gives a fuck? And the court directly contradicted the amended complaint's well-pleaded allegations regarding the popularity and ubiquity of other songs. While arguing that extra complaint materials are fair game, UMG asked this court to disregard the pleaded broader social context and surrounding circumstances. The recording surfaced after the Me Too movement, in which celebrities, including rappers, face severe consequences for sexual misconduct and child sex abuse crimes. Again, why you would draft something like this up and put your name in the mix of all of this when you could have literally forgotten about it, the world would have moved on, is an illness. UMG's response that those individuals were indicted by federal prosecutors misses the point. Given the cultural context, listeners were primed to and did take the recording's allegations as factual and view its subject as another Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, Sean P. Diddy Combs, or R. Kelly. Except if anybody was serious about that, they would have been had your fucking head. There would be no wait for the Iceman album. It would be put his ass in prison. And it would be a strong campaign for that. The people that have said that have been a very small minority. It is reversible error that the district court drew inferences against Drake based on disputed interpretations of little-known extra-pleading song lyrics while simultaneously ignoring well-pleaded allegations like the broader social context regarding PDF allegations against male celebrities. UMG asked this court to ignore its repeated republications of the record. UMG next urges this court to disregard Drake's well-pleaded allegations that the recording was repeatedly republished to new audiences further removed from the original rap battle and prior songs. After baselessly asserting that this issue is waived when Drake repeatedly raised it below, UMG suggests that because Drake pleaded the recording was always popular, subsequent broadcasts cannot be republications reaching new audiences. But Drake pleaded multiple republications that necessarily reached new audiences, including that UMG 1 released the video after the rap battle was over, and Drake had informed UMG of the shooting at his home. Except it was understood not only by UMG, but the news coverage in your own town that shooting was not connected to your beef with Kendrick Lamar. And republished the recording at 2 political and sporting events. Just like some of your songs were played on television on the NBA. Family Matters was played on TNT for the NBA. The Grammys and the Super Bowl to a global audience almost a year after the original rap battle. UMG's argument also flops mathematically. The recording's immediate popularity, 96 million streams in a week, pales in comparison to 3.65 billion total global views of the Super Bowl performance, a republication far outside the original rap battle, including to football fans who had never before heard the song or any of the songs that preceded it. UMG's assertion that the Super Bowl audience had even greater notice of the feud than the original audience runs directly into these allegations. UMG then argues that even assuming the recording was republished, the relevant context for the fact versus opinion inquiry is carved in stone at the time of initial republication. For support, UMG again primarily cites the district court's conclusory and unsupported statement that republication cannot transform Lamar's statement of opinion into UMG's statement of fact. Otherwise, UMG cites only an inapposite case, Cooper v. Franklin. Cooper found non-actionable 3 statements made in the days and weeks after a video of the plaintiff was circulated widely and became international news as a racial flashpoint during an ongoing national reckoning about systemic racism. The Cooper plaintiff never argued that the statements required different context analyses, and nothing in the case suggests that a statement's context is fixed at initial publication, no matter how the circumstances or audience changed by the time of republication. Steinhilber is instructive. Therefore, the court concluded that statements made about a plaintiff during an acrimonious labor dispute would have been understood as a tasteless effort to lampoon plaintiff for her activities as a scab. The conclusion makes sense. The audience, union members, and associates would have the relevant labor dispute context and view the dispute accordingly. But if the same allegations were republished almost a year later to a worldwide audience of Super Bowl viewers unfamiliar with the underlying labor dispute, the 2 contexts undoubtedly would have been different. UMG embraces the district court's de facto categorical rule that rap diss tracks can never be actionable. Although UMG purports to disclaim a categorical rule that statements in diss tracks cannot be defamatory, in UMG's view, a rap diss track signals, if not shouts, opinion, not fact. It should. But not all listeners, especially of republished versions, would recognize it as a part of that forum. Regardless, forum is not dispositive. Even in informal fora, statements need to be assessed on a case-by-case basis. Perhaps statements in rap diss tracks may only be actionable infrequently, but this case is one of those rare exceptions. Nah, dog. You've been operating as the rare exception to every rule, not this one. The recording's lyrics, the realistic image, and the accompanying video falsely indict Drake, stating he's a certified PDF. This message reached broad audiences and gained serious reactions, including threats and an attempt on Drake's life. Here we go with this bullshit. If the recording cannot support a defamation claim, nothing in this forum ever will. Both UMG and Amici suggest that the rap diss track forum must be treated with kid gloves. Kid gloves? You mean the kid gloves that the industry and the world has been dealing with Drake for 15 years? Those kid gloves. For Drake, who is a rapper, poses a threat to the future of rap. Absolutely. This fear-mongering is baseless. Many facets of defamation law and the First Amendment adequately protect artistic expression. For example, as a public figure plaintiff, Drake must show actual malice, that UMG acted with knowledge of falsity or a reckless disregard of the truth, which is not an issue here. That this case involves rap does not give UMG a free pass for defamation. UMG's newfound anything goes in music, no matter what approach, is also inconsistent with its own practices. Its standard recording contract includes a provision which permits UMG to eliminate material which, in UMG's judgment, constitutes defamation or libel, which they should have also exercised on your songs if that's what you're implying. We wouldn't have had a beef if that's the case. We would have never had a Drake beef in hip-hop ever. We would have never got Drake versus Meek Mill. We would have never got Drake versus Pusha T if UMG was supposed to just block any and everything that could constitute defamation, even from his side, if that's the case. But of course, we've heard about UMG trying to enforce stipulations on Pusha T, being that Def Jam, the label he was formerly signed to, was under the umbrella. But when have they blocked Drake from releasing anything? And you think they're going to block Kendrick Lamar? Okay. It is only now, when this reality collides with its commercial bottom line, that UMG pretends all rap is shielded from defamation liability. 2. Drake adequately pleaded that the defamatory statements constitute mixed opinion. Alternatively, Drake has stated a defamation claim based on mixed opinion, statement of opinion that implies that it is based upon facts which justify the opinion but are unknown to those reading or hearing it. What differentiates an actionable mixed opinion from a pure opinion is the implication that the speaker knows certain facts unknown to the audience which support the speaker's opinion and are detrimental to the person being discussed. Drake pointed to 2 lyrics in the recording, say, "Drake, I hear you like I'm young, and rabbit hole is still deep. I can go further, I promise," that at minimum could be viewed by a reasonable listener as containing the implication that Lamar knows certain facts unknown to the audience supporting the PDF allegations. Drake also explained that 1, other songs in the pleading suggested that Lamar had undisclosed information about Drake, and 2, real listeners had interpreted the recording's lyrics as implying undisclosed information. In a footnote, UMG baldly asserts that the rabbit hole lyric cannot be understood to imply undisclosed facts. Despite UMG's inappropriately placing the burden on Drake to put forth an alternative understanding of the lyrics of Tailor-Made Freestyle Super at 10, UMG makes no effort to propose an alternative interpretation, let alone show Drake's allegations, which must be credited, are unreasonable. Instead, UMG rehashes its context argument to claim that the lyrics could not be reasonably understood to imply undisclosed facts because they were part of a rap battle. UMG's cases support the non-controversial proposition that when the overall context indicates viewers would not take statements seriously, that bears on the mixed opinion inquiry. But here, the context does not so indicate, especially given the repeated republications of the recording, and in any event, the statements here are most facially suggestive of reliance on undisclosed facts than those in Lanasa and Woodbridge. UMG further argues against undisclosed facts because the allegations implicate controversies that are widely known or reported, namely rumors about Drake's relationship with minors. And of course, they posted multiple news articles and publications that predate this beef where those relationships were the topic, right? Alleged relationships, or what the nature of those relationships were, pre-existed the battle completely, and it had been talked about for a while. Even if credited, the argument is self-defeating. If a reasonable listener were aware of existing rumors, she would be more likely to understand statements that an industry insider has heard information and can go deeper as suggesting supportive but undisclosed information. UMG's argument fails for other reasons. First, the amended complaint does not plead anything about the existence of purported rumors, let alone that they are widely known or reported, nor could their existence be judicially noticed. The existence and widespread nature of a rumor is plainly subject to reasonable dispute. It is likewise insufficient that rumors were mentioned in judicially noticed articles. The court cannot take the article's statements about rumors for the truth of the matters asserted. Second, UMG again asked this question to make a factual finding. These rumors exist and are widely known or reported without giving Drake the opportunity to submit contrary evidence. That is again improper. Oh, man. Third, UMG's cases are an opposite. Each concerns statements regarding well known, undeniable factual events, not rumors. Well, I'm so tired of this goddamn case. The district court erred by dismissing Drake's harassment claim. The district court dismissed Drake's harassment claim because New York penal law section 242.6 does not create a private right of action. In doing so, the court countermanded Second Circuit authority, picked the wrong side of split New York decisions, and reached a conclusion at odds with New York's lenient and permissive private right of action test. UMG's response misinterprets the law and forgets contrary authority, and UMG's perfunctory alternative arguments fail. A private right of action for harassment exists. UMG's primary argument against recognizing a private right of action here is that such actions are barred whenever a statute provides for criminal enforcement. That is incorrect. The Sheehy-Hammer test exists to determine whether a penal statute implies a private right of action. UMG simply ignores New York cases recognizing private rights of action for myriad statutes prescribing criminal punishments. UMG next contends that because the legislature enacted private rights of action for the adjacent penal law harassment provision, there can be no implied private right of action in Section 240.26, but UMG's cited provisions create specific civil remedies, including enhanced punishments for Section 240.25. Harassment based on discrimination. We going for discrimination? See New York Civil Rights Law 40C, outlawing certain discrimination harassment. Monetary penalties for Section 40C violations. 79N, cause of action and remedies for race, national origin harassment. Nothing suggests that by providing special remedies for one type of particularly harmful conduct, the legislature intended to foreclose general civil remedies for all harassment. Indeed, courts have repeatedly found implied private rights of action under Section 240.25. UMG fails to address Drake's authorities. Drake cited 8 cases finding private rights of action for harassment and 2 others supporting his interpretation of Galila. UMG only mentions these authorities in a footnote suggesting they are tainted because they rely on Galila, which UMG incorrectly dismisses as outdated dicta. UMG further misrepresents its authorities. UMG asserts that uniform New York appellate precedent rejects a private right of action for 240.26, but UMG largely ignores a contrary appellate decision, Long v. Beneficial Fin Co., and 2 of its 3 cases hold only that there is no independent harassment tort. They do not even mention Section 240.26 or the private right of action doctrine. Despite Drake pointing out this exact same error, UMG cannot explain how cases never citing Section 240.26 can reject a private right of action under it. UMG's alternative arguments fail. UMG half-heartedly suggests that this court could affirm the dismissal of Drake's harassment claim on grounds not previously considered. This court should follow the distinctly preferred practice of remanding. UMG's backup arguments nonetheless fail. First, Drake adequately alleged that UMG acted with intent to harass, annoy, or alarm. Issues of intent and motive are typically factual inquiries that should not be decided on a motion to dismiss unless the non-movement has failed to allege any evidence that the defendants acted with scienter. Intent may, and in most instances must, be established by inferences drawn from the surrounding circumstances. Drake pleaded both that UMG had an incentive to devalue his music and that UMG continued to publish and promote material accusing Drake of SAing children even after Drake informed it of the allegations' falsity and the violent assault. Those intent allegations suffice at this stage. Second, Drake pleaded that UMG acted with no legitimate purpose. There is no legitimate purpose in baselessly hurling PDF accusations, especially after UMG learned of the violent consequences. UMG relies on its financial motive, RB62, but its sole cited case, People v. Stewart, does not hold that a partial financial motivation shields otherwise illegitimate conduct from harassment liability. To the contrary, that a defendant also stood to benefit financially or otherwise does not imbue harassing conduct with a legitimate purpose. Third, Drake alleged that UMG engaged in a course of conduct repeatedly committed qualifying acts. This element imposes a minimal burden. Although one isolated incident is insufficient to establish a course of conduct, a pattern of conduct composed of a series of acts over a period of time, however short, evidencing a continuity of purpose, can support such a finding. UMG suggests that the harassment claim violates the First Amendment because the recording is pure speech. Regardless, Drake's claim is based not on pure speech, but on UMG's conduct in publishing, vigorously promoting, and republishing the recording. The district court erred in dismissing the deceptive business practices claim. Finally, this court should reverse the dismissal of Drake's claim that UMG violated New York General Business Law Section 349. A. Drake has pleaded sufficient facts supporting a covert scheme. UMG argues that Drake failed to allege the existence of a covert scheme because Drake relies on allegations made on information and belief and predicted on a handful of largely anonymized online posts. Again, UMG misstates both the allegations in the amended complaint and the law. On the allegations, Drake pleaded numerous facts, suggesting that UMG used a covert scheme to boost the recording's popularity, only some of which were upon information and belief. Allegations included 1. On information and belief, UMG used bots to spread the recording on Spotify. 2. Botted streams are a serious problem. 3. Budden indicated that Lamar used bots to boost the recording's popularity. What does Joe Budden know about what the hell Kendrick Lamar is doing for his recording's popularity? So you believe Kendrick sent them a text and said, hey, bro, this is what I'm doing. Come on. 4. A social media user posted a video demonstrating how to use a bot streamer and explained that UMG and Lamar had used that tool to boost the recording's popularity, despite this person saying that was a farce. Social media users implicated UMG in paid promotion of the recording. 6. On information and belief, UMG provided financial incentives to streaming platforms, which also proved to not be, a thing necessarily as it pertains to this case. Are they botting? Probably so. But does it pertain to this? No. Oh, boy. And on information and belief, UMG took part in pay for play. You couldn't even prove that. 9. UMG has previously paid millions in a settlement after a pay for play investigation, supporting an inference of pay for play here 20 years ago. On the law, UMG takes issue with Drake's argument that a plaintiff may plead facts on information and belief where the facts are peculiarly within the possession of the defendant, or where the belief is based on factual information that makes the inference of culpability plausible. But UMG's cited cases suggest at most that information and belief pleading is insufficient when plaintiffs provide no supporting facts whatsoever. I didn't disagree with them. UMG argues that Drake cannot rely on Lamar's conduct to support its deceptive business practices claim against UMG, but Drake pleaded that that UMG's unlawful conduct was carried out directly or indirectly through its agents and that UMG conspired to artificially inflate the recording's popularity. None do what UMG asks, weigh the credibility of a plaintiff's allegations, decide that those relying on online sources are too unreliable to count, and then disregard the well-pleaded facts rather than construing them in the plaintiff's favor. B. Drake has alleged consumer-oriented conduct. Drake alleged that the acts or practices using deceptive methods to artificially boost a recording's popularity have a broad impact on consumers at large. Music consumers expect that recommendations from music service providers are based on a legitimate rationale, not the record label's backroom transactions. You know, like the ones who put Scorpion era Drake on every playlist, including the gospel ones. That sort of thing. UMG contends that the conduct must result in a transaction in which the consumer was harmed. Again, UMG fails to mention Drake's cited authorities holding the opposite. While the typical case under Section 349 generally involves claims arising directly out of a commercial transaction between a plaintiff consumer and a defendant seller, neither the text of the statute nor the case law establishes this requirement. UMG's own authority is an apposite. Used the term transaction in describing the statute, but focused on whether the deception took place. It did not set forth or even discuss the need for a pecuniary transaction. Regardless, Drake has shown impacted transactions as consumers pay for music streaming services. UMG's alternative argument fails. Finally, UMG urges this court to affirm on another alternative ground. Drake was not injured by the deception. This court should instead remand. Nonetheless, this argument fails. Drake alleges that he was harmed as an artist, i.e., a competitor to Lamar, because UMG falsely inflating the record's popularity and especially redirecting users from Drake's songs toward the recording that never actually happened, cost him the opportunity for his songs to be streamed and gained royalties. This is akin to competitor injuries New York courts have recognized. And contra UMG, this injury is neither derivative nor indirect. UMG's passing assertion that any harm is speculative fails because Drake pleaded that users were diverted from his songs toward the recording. That is precisely the type of harm found to be sufficient at the summary judgment stage in North State Autobahn. Surely then, it is enough to state a claim. Redirecting from his music to Kendrick's is crazy. This court should reverse the dismissal of the amended complaint dated April 17, 2026. When I tell y'all I am so tired of this goddamn lawsuit bullshit, I am so tired of this nigga and his antics. I'm tired of his legal team, although they're being paid to do their job, and I'm sure he's paying them very handsomely to do this bullshit. What am I really supposed to offer additionally that I haven't said? What are we supposed to say that hasn't been said for the last 2 years about this shit, bro? We could have been on to so many other things by now. Drake could have been moved on to so many other things by now. Nigga could have had 2 albums out by now if he would have just moved on with his fucking life and actually been unbothered as everyone around him has claimed he's been. If he was so unbothered, this shit wouldn't be here. He probably would be on a successful United States American tour by now because he still has fans. And his fans are waiting on the music. But instead of feeding them the music, he would rather go to war with his label because he really don't want to be there no more. Because they gave him a lowball offer that he didn't like in the renegotiation process regarding his contract. He put it in his own paperwork. But now he wants to act like this whole thing is some fucking injustice to humanity. And he's going to be a martyr for the music industry to save everybody from defamation and botting. Give me a fucking break. So yeah, I don't have anything additional to offer to this shit, man. Already been here an hour. It's a load of crap. But y'all requested that I read it. I've done enough reading of this shit to last me a whole goddamn semester in college right now. But so be it. Let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, become an insider. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Definitely going to be less time. I'll see y'all in a minute, though. Peace.
Yeah, family over fame in this bitch, yeah. The glory of living righteous is setting in. My street knowledge and education's a perfect blend. Young mogul, independent, I've been setting trends. The first one from my family to be faithfully wed. Fuck niggas and the horses that they riding on. I see this shit from all angles like a polygon. I'm never politicking, the drama be piling on. Father and greats unacknowledged like I'm Bobby Bonds. Conversation with my lady about the paper route. 5 sit bank accounts, every day I make it count. They down talking my commentary for hating now. Well, I can take it cause I'm bodying your favorite now, please. I could do this shit in my sleep. I been writing for these niggas, y'all read it and weep. I been fighting these niggas if you speak on the street. I'll turn your birthday party into New Year's Eve. Don't let me take it there. We ain't playing fair. This the ATL, Southside nigga moving furniture like Wayfair. Life on hold, no insurance for your healthcare. Lifeline gone, so you wanna be a millionaire? Well, let me tell you about this world I built. The women I dodged, the niggas that I ran for filth. The sympathy cause consulting for the stacks I built. I had to